Meditations is a book of Stoic philosophy written by the man who was Emperor of Rome between 161 and 180 CE. Marcus Aurelius was the last great representative of the Nerva Antonine dynasty, which came to power in 96 CE, and which, according to the 18th century British historian Edward Gibbon, marked the happiest period in history. He spent almost his entire reign on the front line, defending Rome against its enemies north of the River Danube. Meditations contained his personal reflections and was not intended for publication. Stoicism, which is the philosophy behind the Meditations, first emerged in ancient Athens around 300 BCE, approximately 20 years after the death of Aristotle, the last of the three great founders of philosophy. Like the other philosophical movements which arose at roughly the same time, Cynicism, from which Stoicism grew, and Epicureanism, it focused on how to live. While it did have important views on physics, logic, and the philosophy of language, those are always subordinate to its ethics. It declined after Christianity became the Roman state religion in the 4th century CE. It was effectively incorporated into Platonism, although it was revived in the 17th century and is popular today as a form of self-help. Meditations is divided into 12 short chapters. Marcus Aurelius tells us much about his life, but because this is a personal notebook, there's no chronological order. Chapter 1 is a list of people who influenced him and how. From my grandfather Verus, I learned. From my mother, I learned, and so on, with the implication that the things described are things all people should learn. What makes the meditation so enduring is that it's rather like Western scripture. It can be read academically, but it can also be used devotionally. The reader can simply allow it to fall open in the confidence of finding relevant life advice. Philosophically, it's typical of Stoicism generally. The universe conforms to a rational plan, which it's given to humans as rational beings to discern but not to alter. The best life involves living in conformity with providence, which is a life of reasoned virtue. Do each act as if it were your last, Marcus says, free from the deliberate turning away from reason, free from pretense, free from displeasure at what is allotted to you, and you will see how few things a man need master in order to live a smooth and God-fearing life. As a philosophy for life, Stoicism is remarkably similar to Buddhism. Both sense your attachment. Buddhism perhaps has the advantage of believing in free will, but Stoicism pulls ahead through a recognition of the civic dimension of virtue, and by not believing in something like karma, whereby the universe mysteriously rewards good behavior and punishes bad. Just as Buddhism was adopted by many Japanese samurai, so Stoicism was adopted by many Roman soldiers, of whom Marcus Aurelius was one. Stoicism had a massive influence on Christianity, especially the version of that religion propounded in the Gospel of John. The idea that virtuous interiority could be cultivated under diverse forms of adversity went well with John's pessimism about the world. And of course, the whole of chapter 1 of that book, In the beginning was the Word, the Greek term for word being logos, a notion central to Stoicism but absent from the Old Testament, shouldn't be overlooked. Not all philosophers admire Marcus Aurelius. In an episode of Melvin Bragg's In Our Time, Jonathan Ray called his thinking Pollyanna-ish, and many experts prefer the discourses of the ex-slave Epictetus, whom Marcus also admired, or even the writings of Seneca. But then it's very easy to find wanting a book that was never intended for publication.